Central Bank of Nigeria slashes monetary policy rate MPR to 12.5%. Senate considers 10.51 trillion naira revised budget for 2020. Price crash. NNPC targets $10 oil production costs. NCAA releases guidelines for flight crews as Nigeria prepares to reopen economy. This edition of Business Express will also take a look at how the present administration has fared economically in the last 5 years. The program is coming to you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, and we're reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Muplang Dakok. It's so good to know that you're always with us on Business Express. The Senate has reconvened to consider President Muhammadu Buhari's request for approval of the revised 2020 to 2022 medium-term expenditure framework/fiscal strategy paper and revised appropriation bill 2020. The bill to amend the 2020 Appropriation Act, which scaled second reading on the floor, was considered immediately after a letter to that effect from President Buhari was read during plenary by the Senate President Ahmed Lawan. The revised 2020 Appropriation Act was submitted by the executive to the National Assembly for approval, proposed an estimated 10.5 trillion naira budget for the 2020 fiscal year.
But I want to say the effort here is modest and it's one that needs our total support. I think the time has come for those who drive in exotic cars, SUV cars, to pay toll.
It is also imperative to adjust expected revenues, considering the widespread disruptions in other domestic economic activities, as well as international trade and transportation.
The assumptions underlying the 2020 Appropriation Act are no longer sustainable.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA, has released guidelines after the federal government declared its readiness to gradually reopen the economy after about 7 weeks lull in activities. In a letter dated 27th May and signed by the Director General, Captain Musa Nuhu, the NCAA said the flight crews will henceforth wear personal protective equipment, PPE, and observe infection, prevention, and control measures for the duration of their flights. The NCAA added that the flight crews would not be quarantined, but undergo mandatory testing for COVID-19 every 14 days at a cost to the air operator upon return to Nigeria. However, any flight crew member who tests positive for COVID-19 will be taken to a treatment center for further management. The Monetary Policy Committee MPC of the Central Bank of Nigeria CBN slashed the monetary policy rate MPR on Thursday to 12.5%. CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, who stated this at the end of the MPC meeting in Abuja, said the committee, however, left other monetary policy parameters unchanged. The MPC resolved to keep the liquidity ratio at 30%, cash reserve requirement CRR at 27.5%, and asymmetry corridor at plus 200/ minus 500 basis points around the MPR.
The committee also urged government to remain focused on the implementation of the revised 2020 to 2022 medium-term expenditure framework as the basis for sustainable fiscal policy.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, NECA, has lauded the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, over its decision to reduce the monetary policy rate. NECA, in a statement, says the development signals a pro-growth response that could lead to a reduction in the cost of credit, increase investment, and impact positively on output growth in order to address the current global challenges. Director General NECA Olawole Timothy also noted that with the negative effects of COVID-19, as well as twin challenges of the global oil prices and overexposure of the economy to external shocks, the decision by the Monetary Authority is a welcome development. To shed more light on the outcome of the Monetary Policy Committee meeting and the economy on this May 29 edition of the program is Paul Alaje, who is an economist and a partner PM Professionals.
Thank you so very much for having me.
Yes, thank you very much for coming on Business Express, as you always do.
Thank you so very much for having me.
All right, so the MPC has reduced the rate by 100 basis points from 13.5% to 12.5%. Did you see this coming? Many people said it seems like it was kind of like a gift for the 29th of May that was brought a day earlier. Did you see it coming?
Well, I've granted an interview 2 weeks before NPC met, and I've recommended that the way to go now is to support growth argument rather than trying to defend the economy, considering what inflation will be. It was the right decision made. I was expecting it. I was only expecting a 13%, 0.5% reduction. But to my surprise, it was increased to 12 point. The rate was reduced by 100 basis points. So of course, 12.5% NPR, which is a welcome development.
Okay.
What that means is the Monetary Policy Committee is more particular about growth because of the pandemic. Recall that this pandemic has caused both demand shock and supply shock, and indeed the market shock. People were locked down for a period of 5 to 6 weeks, and as we speak, the economy has not fully reopened. We have skeletal activities, we have curfew in place, and so on and so forth. So something is certain. We are going to have our GDP being affected. In fact, Honorable Minister of Finance had mentioned that GDP figure may go into negative. We may have negative growth. But MPC seems to be giving hope that we may not necessarily go into a recession if we are able to manage the economy. Meanwhile, IMF is saying Nigeria will go into minus 3.4% recession this year. There are other authorities around the world that have given several projections on Nigeria and West Africa, and indeed the entire West Africa. But I must say that this is one of the ways to combat the pandemic in terms of the economy, by putting more fund, by relaxing some policies that we have tightened over the years, so that economy can have some sort of liquidity, and we can also, you see, but with this policy, those who are owing banks the rate ordinarily, and that's another conversation entirely, should have been reviewed downward, so that they can also have access to more facility to get more people to job. When you get more people to job, you are lubricating the economy, you are further relaxing economic contraction, and we can say we have seen the end of economic recession, if we have it at all.
Okay. Let's hope that we see the end very soon. But you talked about the impact of COVID-19. We also have the fall in oil prices. We also have external shocks and, you know, other things affecting the economy. Do you see that this reduction in the rates affecting the economy in the next few months? What actually do you think is going to play out? You've mentioned some of it.
Yes, what you're going to see immediately is there will be some level of liquidity back into the system. Central Bank had promised 50 billion naira stimulus package. All of these will affect the economy. Now, what can we do about global oil prices? Is an external force, is an exogenous variable that we don't have so much impact, much influence on. But the good news is OPEC plus one have decided on output cost, and we have seen that even Nigeria in the review budget have also mentioned the output cost. Unlike over 2 million barrels we have, what we have is is over 1 million barrels, so that we can have increase in global in oil prices, as Nigeria is a major stakeholder in that conversation as well. So as at yesterday, we have seen that oil prices have climbed from $15 per barrel to about $34 per barrel, and we're even expecting more increase in next month, perhaps to about $40 at the end of next month. Then we can say we are gradually reaching the comfort zone. Now, when all of this money comes, it's going to do so many things. One of which we do is foreign reserve is significantly increased, then the distortion you see apparel market will gradually fizzle out. If the price at the international market goes to about $50 per barrel, then those who are speculating on Naira, they will have their fingers to bite. Because what central bank would do is to support local currency on 380 at M&E window, and also official rate of 360, so that our economy that also imports some of this commodity would have a meaningful breather.
Okay. Mr. Alaje, today is 29th May. It marks the 5th year since President Muhammadu Buhari became president of Nigeria. Let's talk about the same issue, the MPC and the MPR in the last 5 years. Just very quickly, how did you see the performance? What exactly did they do, and how did it help to shape the economy?
Yeah, well, MPC have maintained the defense on Naira and also inflation throughout the period Mr. President was elected, first time and currently. What you've seen is that he has held rate at 14% for approximately more than 2 years, and did a minor review to 13.5% because he needs to protect the Naira. Recall that after 2015 election, we started seeing a major slide in global oil prices because of economic quagmire that was led by instability and shocks at international level. So what Nigeria had, we have to defend Naira at a time, because foreign direct investments was meaningfully reducing and foreign reserve was also reducing. That was what led to a sustained interest rate. Inflation went as high at 18%. As we speak, it has reduced to 12%, even though it has started increasing again, because at the time went to 11%, but it has started increasing again. So we have seen the effort of MPC to ensure that we have a stabilized currency. Recall that the two core mandate for Monetary Policy Committee, and indeed the central bank of any country, two main core mandate, apart from other things of course that it needs to do, is price stability and exchange rate stability. Price stability in sense of inflation. The targeted inflation figure for Nigeria is between 6 to 9%, and of course exchange rate stability, so that we don't throw our currency there for everybody to price like we have in some countries. We are not saying we should have too strong a currency, but it's also poor to have too weak a currency. As Monetary Policy Committee try to achieve this over the years, I would say yes. There are times where, of course, mistakes have been made. We have criticized some of the decisions. They've been immediately reviewed, and we have the economy we have now, which I think is getting in the right direction.
All right. Let's talk about revenue generation in the last 5 years. We all know that revenue is like the fuel that we need to, move the economy. So how has revenue generation fared in the last 5 years? Talking about revenue generating institutions like the FIRS, the customs, and so many others. Let's talk about that.
You see that I think during this administration we've seen tax holiday and also tax people coming out to declare that they've not paid tax for a while. Stamp amnesty, that's the word, tax amnesty. And that helped a lot to recover billions of naira into the coffers of government. And government has also generated more even through import duties during this period. Recall that 2016, revenue from oil was next to nothing. What government depended on was alternative sources of tax revenue, which included company income tax, and for state personal income tax, VAT, and also for government, for federal government, I mean, what is coming from custom. At this period, all of this revenue significantly increased from what they had at the end of 2017, I beg your pardon. So from 2016 and 2017, there have been steady increase, but more importantly in 2018, because the period of recession is a no man's zone. recession means people will not earn enough, demand is down, supply is down, revenue will not be as high as it used to be. So we saw some of those sharp drop at those period. But in 2017, 2018, we started seeing consistent increase based on policy made by the FIRS boss passed and the policy being put in place by the current boss of FIRS. So to a large extent, I would say that revenue generation, we've been climbing gradually, even though slowly, but steadily, in terms of generating more revenue at this moment today.
Okay, as an economist and also as a Nigerian who has been following the paths of growth in the last 5 years, what would you say was the most significant gain of the economy?
Well, the most significant gain for the economy will be agriculture. The focus of government has been agriculture. Before, Nigeria has added almost 2 million metric tons in rice production compared to what we had before, even though consumption has increased even by more than 2 million that we have. We have also reduced significantly importation of paddy rice. Now we even have complete border closure. So there's no way for you to bring in paddy to process rice, which is the main input for rice that we all eat, whether we call it Nigerian rice or foreign rice. Paddy is now local. So what you have is places like Kebbi State, which is #1 in terms of output, and coming to North Central, where you have Benue and Kogi, which are major producers in terms of output, and of course in Southwest, where you have Ekiti and Ogun State, which are also major output producers. They have seen significant increase in output of farms. So one of the things, amongst some other things that government have done in the last 5 years, is to support agriculture. And if you see several areas of agriculture, one that we can see clear results in terms of improvement in output is rice. We have organizations such as Olam that also bring rice into Nigeria before. Now farms in Nasarawa State, now farms in Niger State. You also have so many other producers, including Stallion, that are also considering to do the same. So rice production has significantly increased from what we had before to what we have now.
Okay, let me take you back. You mentioned it briefly, but I'll take you up on that very briefly also. You talked about fight against corruption. So let's talk about how the government was able to fight financial corruption, I would say. For instance, using the TSA and other measures. What do you say about that?
One TSA policy had been in place but was never fully implemented, and that is like a collection bucket for all government money so that we can properly monitor, which of course had been fully implemented for government to actually know what it was. So TSA is a way of fighting loopholes and also leakages of government funds, which was fully implemented, which is good. Apart from that, we have also seen that during this period, we've seen a lot of recoveries from former minister, government officials, and so on and so forth, most of which are novel. They were not what we have seen. It is not that we have not had administration that questioned people in office. We have had a situation where an EFCC boss had arrested his own boss, the former IG of police. We have seen that in the country. But we have also now seen that even ministers, past ministers, are being questioned regarding how they spend the funds of the state. We have also seen that a state governor have been asked to go to prison. So these are ways, this sends signals to those who are currently serving the country that you may have your friend in office today, tomorrow it may be your supposed enemy that will get office. And I'm also trying to use this to tell those who are in office today that the person that you think may get to office may not get there. It could be your supposed enemy. The only way you can save yourself is when you do the right thing at the right time when you're in office. The African Development Bank comes to my mind.
Okay.
The chairman of the president of African Development Bank, he was in the last administration as Minister of Agriculture. The current administration also confirmed him to go into to supported him, even though he was part of the previous administration, to support him to become president. Now some interests are saying he should leave office, but past, present, current government, government are all coming together to defend him. In that case, he has no enemy. He has served where he was before. He's serving where he is, and everybody is saying kudos to me. I believe we have more hundreds and thousands of Nigerians who are in issues that we can support.
Okay, before I let you go, I want to talk about what we should do moving on, because we've been talking about the achievements. What needs to be done? Just very quickly.
A lot more also needs to be done in terms of economy. Now, first of all, let me say what needs to be done now and what we need to do in future. One of the things we need to do now is regarding our economy. We understand that we have partially relaxed the policy because of the pandemic, but I will also strongly advise that we consider 5 additional sectors. 5 additional sectors need to be considered.
All right.
Education is important. We need to fully reopen construction because a lot of people are in that sector, most of which their market are open 3 times a week, 2 times a week, as the case may be. The implication will come back to us. Those who are in hospitality industry, they are crying, and beyond the cries is the unemployment that is my concern. Also those in banking, 24% of non-performing loans are given to people in oil and gas, and you know we have a twin accident because of global economy. I understand I don't have so much of time.
Yes.
More importantly, religious activity. Religious activity in Nigeria is worth 3 trillion naira. We cannot continue to shut them down. What we need this moment today is for everyone to adhere to NCDC guideline, washing over with soap and water, and the use of alcohol-based sanitizer, social distancing like we have about 2 meters, etc., etc. Then our people get more conscious. If you feel you have symptoms, report to the right authority. Let you present yourself for treatment, and you can, because it's not a death sentence.
Thank you very much.
And in future, President also, and among other executive of government and legislature, we need to focus more on this economy, so that if we are going to go into recession, it will not last. We can come out of it together.
Paul Alaje has been the one talking with me on the economy in the past 5 years. I know that if I let you keep talking, we're going to be doing it for the next 1 hour. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so very much for having me, ma'am.
The dollar was hemmed into a narrow trading range on Friday as traders' focus shifted to U.S. President Donald Trump's response to China's passage of a national security law for Hong Kong. Let's see how the naira is exchanging for other international currencies. Let's talk about the stocks market now. The NSE All Share Index appreciated by 0.40% to close this week at a positive range. The basis points was 25,267.82 points, while investors exchanged 325 million shares valued at 4.4 billion naira. Market capitalization rose to 13.1 trillion naira, while the deals were 5,647. FBNH, Guarantee Trust Bank and Zenith Bank were the toast of investors as they recorded the highest volume of traded shares. And on the global scene, Asia Pacific stocks multiplied as investors watch market reaction to China's security bill for Hong Kong. Over to Bosede Ebo.
Most global markets were anticipating Donald Trump's comments on Thursday regarding China. The announcement came after China's National People's Congress approved a national security bill for Hong Kong. Shanghai Composite gained 0.22% to 2,852.35. Hang Seng Index dipped 0.74% as of its final hour of trading, and Nikkei also declined 0.18% on the day to 21,877.89. Meanwhile, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.58% to 25,400.64. while the S&P 500 slid 0.21% to 3,029.73. Nasdaq Composite dropped 0.46% to 9,368.99. Similarly, European markets retreated on as escalating tensions between the US and China pushed back on the week's positive sentiment amid the reopening of economies across the continent. Africa stocks were also affected as investors await cautiously Ghana's GSA, South Africa's GSA Africa Top 40, Tunisia's Tunidex, and Nairobi's all-share depreciated, while Namibia's overall index rose by 0.02%.
And this is where we end this episode of the program. Don't forget you can access all previous episodes on YouTube, and you can communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is @NTA News Now. The hashtag is BizX. We value your feedback, and join us again on Monday next week for another package. And as we continue to fight COVID-19, remember to keep social distance while the lockdown is still in force, and wash your hands with soap under running water. I am Muplang Dakok.